Testing a filament transformer is done much like a high-voltage transformer. Note the wire positions and remove the wires. With your meter on the ohm scale, measure between terminals 1 and 2. You should see between 17.49 and 21.37 ohms. With your meter on the ohm scale, measure between 1 and 3. You should see between 20.61 and 25.19 ohms. With your meter on the ohm scale, measure between 4 and 5. You should see very low resistance. If you see an open circuit, the transformer is bad. Now, we need to see if we're getting voltage from the main control board. With pin 5 still grounded, and your multimeter set to DC volts, test between pins 1 and 2. Go to the keypad display that's still in test mode. Press the soft key next to top blower 10% to increase the blower speed in 10% increments. Each increment should increase the voltage output from the main control board by 1 volt DC. If you don't see the correct voltage, check the wiring harness, and if that's okay, replace the main control board. If there's no voltage present at the high voltage transformer, check the K2 anode relay. First check for coil voltage from the main control board. When it's calling for microwaves, you should see 24 volts DC at the coil. If there's no voltage, check the wiring back to the main control board. No output means a malfunctioning board. With the correct coil voltage, the relay should actuate. If it doesn't, you have a faulty relay. I-series ovens are equipped with a motorized stirrer that rotates when the oven is on or above 150 degrees Fahrenheit or 65.5 degrees Celsius. If the stirrer fails to rotate, it can cause other problems. The stirrer motor can be seen rotating when the top is removed. The main control board sends a 24-volt DC signal to relay K3 which engages and activates the stirrer motor. The motor turns a stirrer blade that scatters the microwaves throughout the cooking cavity. Turn off the oven by pressing the on-off key. The oven will display cooling down, and turn off the heating circuit but allow the blowers to continue to run. Open the oven door. From normal cooking temperatures, it will take approximately 30 minutes for the oven to cool sufficiently, so it can be cleaned safely. Do not attempt to clean the oven until the oven displays, oven off, ready to clean.
Once the air leaves the blower, it must be routed into the oven's cooking chamber. The air is divided into upper and lower channels, which routes it to the areas above and below the jet plates. As you saw in a previous lesson, the jet plates are different from one another. In our Encore oven, the upper jet plate has fairly large holes, each with an extruded rim. The extrusion aids in directing the jet of air as it passes through the opening. By comparison, the bottom jet plate has smaller holes, and more of them, with no extrusion. We've been talking about magnetrons since the beginning of this training module, and by now you should know that it's the device that generates microwaves. It's a type of vacuum tube, and the name is a combination of the words magnet and electron. And this should give you a clue as to what's going on. Here's a cutaway view of a magnetron. In the middle, shown here, is the filament or cathode. It's made from a special metal alloy of tungsten and thorium. Tungsten because it can withstand very high temperatures, and thorium because it's a large atom and can supply a lot of electrons. A low-voltage input from a step-down transformer heats up the filament and excites the electrons. Open the door and place a load in the oven. The manual calls for a 600 milliliter Pyrex beaker with 1 cup, which is 275 milliliters, of water at 68 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 degrees Celsius. Press the Enter key. Turn the tester on. Just click the knob. Now grab the wand and drag it around the perimeter of the door, moving the wand slowly. A faulty heating element can also trigger an F2 or an F8 error code. If an element is faulty, the oven won't be able to maintain its temperature. To determine if an element is faulty, first make sure the oven is disconnected from the power supply. Disconnect these wires from the high limit thermostat. Just click on them. Select the multimeter with the test probes from the toolbox and set it to the ohm scale. Drag one probe to the open terminal shown here. Drag your other probe to the middle fuse on the opposite side of the oven. This is your top element. You should read 13 ohms at room temperature.